What's up, guys? Anthony Miranda here, aka Man of Men. I want to welcome you all to the Man's Solution podcast. So, the goal for this podcast is to help men solve themselves, right? Really get out of their own way and start making progress and start healing. And there's a lot of narratives today being pushed around, but one that gets the least amount of attention is the fact that men today are struggling. So let's start out let's look at some stats. So men have a higher suicide rate than women in the United States and many other countries. In the U.S., the suicide rate for men is more than 3 times higher than it is for women. Men have higher rates of substance abuse than women. In the U.S., men are more likely to abuse alcohol and illicit drugs, and they are also more likely to die from a drug overdose. Men have higher rates of physical and mental health problems than women. For example, men have higher rates of heart disease, diabetes, and cancer, and they are also more likely to experience anxiety and depression. Men are more likely to be incarcerated than women. In the U.S., men make up about 90% of the prison population. Men have lower life expectancy than women in most countries. In the U.S., the life expectancy for men is about 5 years shorter than it is for women. Men have higher rates of unemployment and joblessness than women. In the U.S., men are more likely to be unemployed and to have longer periods of unemployment. Men have lower levels of education than women in many countries. In the U.S., women are more likely to earn bachelor's degrees and graduate degrees than men. Men have higher rates of accidental injury and death than women. For example, men are more likely to die in car accidents, workplace accidents, and other types of accidental injuries. Men are more likely to be victims of violent crime than women. In the U.S., men are more likely to be victims of homicides, assaults, and other violent crimes. Of course, men are more likely to be victims of military combat than women. In most countries, men are more likely to be drafted into the military service and to be sent to war. Now, this isn't me complaining, right? This is really my attempt to shed light on these issues. Because here's the problem. These stats, they paint a picture, but they really only show us the symptoms of what's really going on with men today. There's something deeper that we need to dig into in order to truly understand how to solve these problems. This is exactly what this podcast will be geared towards. The goal is not to just be a monologue of my own ignorance, right? My goal here is to seek out other subject matter experts to shed some light on some of these issues so we all, as a society, can work together to heal. The goal is to give men the tools they need, like I mentioned earlier, to solve themselves. I understand that most men today, they feel stuck. They feel lost. They feel like they just need someone to help them figure out what's wrong with them. Why can't they make progress? Why can't they drop these bad habits? Why do they keep failing and falling into their own, these cycles of a lack of discipline, of depression, of weakness? Why do I keep falling back? Why do I keep feeling like I can't get ahead in life? Why do I feel like I'm in my own way? And I don't have answers to these questions. I myself have asked myself those questions dozens of times, if not hundreds. And there was a process I went through to get myself out of my own way and truly become the man I was destined to be. To truly become the man that is confident that he's setting the example for generations to come. That was a huge goal of mine for many years. And for many years, I was stuck. If you know me, you know very well, I was very stuck. I was a broken man. Not really a man, I was a boy. I was a very broken boy. I was hurt. I was irrational. Zero discipline, zero respect for authority or for anyone else that I was involved with. And I caused a lot of destruction and despair, not only in my life, but of course, anyone else that I was connected to. And we'll talk about some of those stories here because I think there's a lot to learn from my own experiences. But as I mentioned, I don't just want this to be me. There's only so much I can add to you all. The goal here is to build a community and build a space where we're all talking about this. We're all sharing best practices. We're all sharing the tools and the tricks of the trade that we used as men to get out of our own way and become successful, become someone that you as a boy would desire if you saw as an adult. So, I believe wholeheartedly that if we get down to the root of the problem and start doing the work there, deep at the root, like if we were to picture a tree, I think the approach society has nowadays is a lot of our men are broken at their core. The roots are broken. So then, because the roots are unhealthy and they're broken, when the fruit or when the tree bears fruit, or if the man makes a mistake, then we focus our attention on that fruit. And we have a reactive solution to that spoiled fruit. Maybe try to cut off the branch or something, or use some sort of treatment to help the fruit heal, or provide some sort of service for the fruit to get better, or some medication. And sure, that may help in the short term. It may have put some sort of Band-Aid solution. It may have turned that fruit's life around or the situation around. But the fact of the matter is the roots are still broken. The roots of the tree are still unhealthy. So you may have helped with this one situation, but what about all the other fruits that are going to bear the same kind of result? So society has, of course, put in place some very reactive solutions to healing men and dealing with their issues. So most men have followed suit, and they decided to rely on these reactive solutions. And here's the thing. I don't see that as a problem, because one of my main tenets is accountability. Actually, when you listen to the next episode, the first episode is going to be on accountability, because I believe at the root of all healing and all growth is accountability, first and foremost. So I'm not saying that, we should, be upset that society's not taking care of us, or they're not putting the right proactive measures in place. As I mentioned earlier, this is not an attempt to complain. The goal here is to teach men that we are accountable for ourselves, 100% accountable for ourselves. And it's up to us to put in place these proactive solutions so that way we can heal ourselves, and we're not relying on the institutions to give us some sort of reactive solution that's basically just a Band-Aid. And that puts us in this cycle of basically overwhelm and failure. So what we'll be doing with this podcast is rebuilding the framework of what it means to be a healthy, masculine male. So I encourage you all to subscribe. If you're on YouTube, make sure you subscribe. Make sure you hit the notification bell. Make sure you follow if you're listening on Spotify. I'm sure as we go through this, I'll have it up on more platforms, but for now, that's where it's up. So keep listening. And I encourage you to share your thoughts, share your own experiences, shoot me a message, type up a comment. Let me know what you'd like to touch on as we move on with this podcast. What do you guys want to talk about? What are some issues that you think are very prevalent in today's society? What questions do you want answers to? Because again, we're building a community here. So shoot me your thoughts. Send me, send me some questions that you have, and we can continue to build this and grow. But guys, I am extremely excited to start this journey. And I'm honestly just grateful. I'm very grateful that I'm even in a position mentally, emotionally, spiritually to even be having these kind of discussions with you all. Because 3-4 years ago, I wouldn't have been able to do this. I had nothing to give but pain. And with the things that we're going to talk about in this podcast, those very things, those very tools, processes, and strategies put me in a position to where now I can empty some of my cup and pour into you all. So thank you all for listening, and we'll see you on the next episode.